Assalamu alaikum and good evening. This is Witness and I'm your host, Katrina Hussain. Well, politics is just getting uglier by the day. Yesterday, President Asif Ali Zardari went on a pretty aggressive attack against the PML-N chief Nawaz Sharif, referring to him as a Maulvi. Well, that kind of really disturbed the PML-N, and today in the National Assembly, for example, Chaudhry Nisar as well as Khaja Saad Rafiq were very, very aggressive about the tone and the language that was used by the president during his address to party workers who had gathered in Nodero on the occasion of Shaheed Mohtarma Benazir Bhutto's birth anniversary. Now, having said that, of course, Nawaz Sharif took very little time in thinking about what President Zardari has said, and today he again took a very aggressive stand against the government as, of course, all the major political parties campaign for the elections in Azad Jammu and Kashmir's Legislative Assembly. Now, today, Mian Nawaz Sharif was addressing crowds, and at the same time, Prime Minister Yusuf Raza Gilani was addressing crowds in Bath. And it was sort of interesting to watch because most TV channels were not really clear on what to do, so they just split their screens and put both leaders on screen at the same time, cutting back and forth. Now, of course, these elections are taking on an increasing importance in the backdrop of what is happening, as of course we have discussed in the past couple of days. But against that backdrop today, Mawri Memon, an MNA from the Pakistan Muslim League Q, who has frequently been on this program as well as on other talk shows on other television channels, gave a fiery speech in the National Assembly today and handed in her resignation, both from the party and the National Assembly, objecting to what she said was the PMLQ's decision to ally itself with the Pakistan People's Party. Ms. Memon's objection also came today, and resignation came along with the fact that today the finance bill, the money bill, was voted on. Ms. Memon vociferously screamed no at the time that the speaker called for the votes on the budget, and she then read out her speech in which she announced her decision to resign. Now, that could very well be a one-off. Many people see it as a one-off. Other people see that as the first person to stand up and refuse to just abstain or walk away or just not turn up at the National Assembly. Because if any party member votes against the party lines, he or she stands automatically disqualified. So Ms. Memon took the courageous decision to come to the National Assembly, scream no, and then say she was resigning. So, of course, this is also what was a little surprising was that People's Party's Khurshid Shah immediately took to the floor, made aggressive remarks against Ms. Memon's speech and her decision. Mr. Faisal Salahiyat, who is a parliamentary leader of the party, criticized Ms. Memon on a number of things, and she was defended by the PML-N's Khaja Saad Rafiq. So we will talk about all these issues against the backdrop of an increasingly frustrated and in many ways terrified nation. Even as we speak, 3 people have been shot dead on a bus just outside Quetta. They were pilgrims, innocent people. Several others have been injured. Who is doing the killing? What is the government doing about it? Target killings in Karachi continue unabated. Terrorist bombings every day, if not every alternate day. The death toll, the toll on the psyche of the people, and add to that very volatile mix, the constant load shedding at a time of increasingly hot weather in the country. In fact, I would say temperatures are so high that being without electricity probably inflames people into taking actions that they otherwise wouldn't. Allow me to introduce my guests in the studio. My first guest is Yasmin Rahman, an MNA from the Pakistan People's Party. My second guest in the studio, Senator retired Syed Dilawar Abbas. He is the Senior Vice President of the Pakistan Muslim League Q. And joining me via video link from Ravla Court is Mr. Siddiqul Farooq, a senior leader of the Pakistan Muslim League N. And Ms. Rahman, I will begin with you. What we saw today in the National Assembly, a lot of disinterest from both the government and the opposition. It was a sort of a very muted session compared to the very fiery start that we saw to the budget session. Is the People's Party at all cognizant of how people are feeling on the streets right now?
Definitely, Katrina. People's Party is a grassroots party. Mostly the members, they belong to grassroots. Even the most of the MNAs, directly elected, and they have been elected for so many times, they know the problems of the people of Pakistan. And in fact,
But choose to do nothing about it.
no, they are doing. Of course, this finance bill was for the people of Pakistan, not for any other country. It was, and so they are very, very conscious of the fact that people are facing load shedding and unemployment, of course, and inflation. And these things have been, they have been trying to address these issues. But again, I would say, as you earlier said, this target killings, these terrorism, these are the issues that really they are the obstacles that that affects government's performance. Inefficiencies come because of these law and order situations. Because
I think performance hasn't really been up to the mark. I mean, 3.5 years, Mr. Rahman, and no problem has been adequately addressed.
But since then, we have been facing this problem of law and order situation. You know, people have been killed, and the bombardments and the security issues.
Would you agree that's increased in the past 3 years?
I don't think so. It's increased, but persistently it has been happening after a certain period of time. These things have been, you see, Abbottabad, then Mehran, then Peshawar, then any other city.
And a low-level bombing every day, which sometimes we don't even talk about. Quetta, 1 dead. Peshawar, 2 dead. I mean, every day there's a low-level bombing.
So this sort of situation, I think, it's very difficult for the government to perform when this sort of situation we are facing this. And law and order situation is the, if it is not good, I think that affects the performance of the government, of course, and the economic situation of the country, every country. So we have to first address this, and for this we need support from all the political forces, media.
So why did President Zardari launch this unusual tirade against Mr. Nawaz Sharif?
I think, I mean, he said Maulvi to Mian Nawaz Sharif Sahab. Is Maulvi a bad word?
It's not a bad word, but basically the implication was that Mr. Nawaz Sharif is allying himself with people who are possibly spearheading the terrorism in this country.
I mean, that's what people are reading between the lines, but he said Maulvi, maybe this is thinking, maybe it's the mindset of Mian Nawaz Sharif.
There's also a lot of aggressive language used in that speech.
I think for the past so many months we have been seeing that the MNAs have been using stronger language at the floor of the parliament itself against the president, and they don't even call him the president. They say Mr. Zardari Saab, Mr. Zardari. So even that really it invites.
Shouldn't the president be above all that? Leave it to the MNAs to defend him and his party?
I think we are trying to defend him, but you know, this sort of behavior, then he has been ignoring it, I think, for a longer period of time. 3 years is a long period of time. Then finally, and I think one of this extremist elements in the society, it has really taken over the performance of the government and affected the people of Pakistan.
Sure, that's there. Okay, Senator, let me bring you to the conversation over here. Today, your very young MNA, Marvi Memon, resigned after a very fiery speech in the National Assembly in which she accused the party leadership of having gone ahead into a coalition with whom, if I'm not mistaken, she says something to the effect of the fact that these are the people we are opposing and we oppose everything they stand for, and today the party leadership has decided to join them, and therefore I will not. How did you take that? As a senior veteran member of the Pakistan Assembly Q, one of your youngest MNAs, and a pretty formidable MNA in the part that I respect her for her acid throwing bill. I think that's one of the most important pieces of legislation to come into Parliament. Today that MNA has walked out from your party telling you that she absolutely does not approve of what your party is doing.
One thing, Katerina, first of all, this is part of democracy, and there is a sort of constitutional structure in the parties and for the parties, and that is provided in the constitution. Last meeting in which Chaudhry Shujaat Hussain, president of the party, went and asked for a debate on the issue of joining the government. I think about 30 MNAs and other party leaders, including about 55 people were there in that meeting. And I had attended 4 earlier meetings which had taken place in Lahore about this program and the process of joining and not joining and all that. Marvi was given the full time to speak out her mind. And there was another MNA of ours, and she sort of criticized from the other side to Marvi, very rightly so. She said, when you had to take the ticket, this is the same room, this is the same place, and you were begging for the priority to be given number 2 or number 3, which is the process of election for the reserved seats. And now once the party has come out, and after seeing that if Mian Nawaz Sharif has not accepted our faction or the party for so long, and after going through this humiliation by him, criticizing our party leadership, without realizing that how and where he left the party. We never left the party, we never left it. It was he who...
But what does that have to do with joining the Pakistan People's Party? You are a strong and vibrant opposition.
Yeah, but it is the time when you are talking of democracy and you let the government go like this. Neither you come in front and say that I am going to oppose and take on the government and replace, because sitting opposition is like the next government in waiting. And if that government doesn't want to come in, where you are leaving the democracy in the government? Mian Nawaz Sharif with 91 votes doesn't want to take on the government to that extent. No party is standing by with him. He is not wanting to talk to us, and he said at many occasions we wouldn't like to even sit with him. And how did you join them now? He asked President Zardari. So where was this country going, the democracy? You tell me that if with 91 votes, 51 of ours, 25 of MQM, 17 or 18 of ANP, 7 or 10 of JUI, if you want to take on the government, you could. That is democracy.
Right.
Or is there any other way of democracy?
So there was the joint opposition was not working.
No, he was not working for the joint opposition.
Mr. Nawaz Sharif did not want a joint opposition.
And how with 51 votes we could save the democracy? Only way to save the democracy and to bring about the good thing or good change, whatever we will be able to contribute.
What we find it hard to understand is for 3 years, your party criticized the government at every step of the way. Your parliamentary leader, Mr. Faisal Saleh, even went to court against the Pakistan People's Party government, and today he's a minister in that same federal cabinet.
This is what the democracy is. If your democracy is going to go out of the door or thrown out without, what was the solution for all this? You tell me.
Okay, what is the solution?
The multi-crisis.
Okay, let me go to Rawalakot, where I'm joined by Mr. Siddiqul Farooq of the Pakistan Muslim League N. Senator Abbas here says that Nawaz Sharif did not want to take on the government, didn't want a joint opposition, Mr. Siddiqul Farooq. So why is Mr. Nawaz Sharif so aggressive these days? Is it simply because of the AJK elections?
Thank you so much, Katrina. I have listened to your introduction, and you have touched upon very genuine and numerous problems the country and the nation is facing today at the hands of this federal government. Now, I want to answer a few observations made by my sister Yasmin Rahman. So she said that PPP is a grassroots party, and this party wants to resolve the issues of the masses. But what is our observation and your observation? That they have added to the problems at grassroots level. Secondly, there is bad governance in Pakistan, and corruption has increased. So the problems you touch upon, same problems were, I think, mentioned and highlighted by our leader, Mr. Nawaz Sharif. And I think then the President, the Prime Minister, and all those who belong to PPP should have addressed to those problems. But they took another turn, and rather than addressing to problems, they started criticizing. And President of Pakistan, that he at such an office which represents national unity, he has gone down to the level of a clown, rebuking Mr. Nawaz Sharif. Look, there were actors like Ronald Reagan and Arnold. They were elevated at the level of governor and president. And a president is coming down to the level of clown. This is not good. Now coming to the observation made by Mr. Dilawar Abbas, is it opposition's role, or is it a genuine opposition only when it takes on the government. And you know, we knew that MQM will never quit government. And it has been proved that when the petroleum price was risen just by 5 rupees per litre, they left the government. And when the petroleum prices gone up by 20 rupees per litre, they joined the government. Right on the day when the Abbottabad incident took place, they joined the government. So we didn't believe in the so-called role of opposition by JUI or by MQM. And let me tell my brother Dilawar Abbas that if you want to play the role of opposition, even one member can play the role of opposition. It doesn't mean that if Mr. Nawaz Sharif is not prepared to talk with you or with your leadership, you take a U-turn. And those who, according to your Secretary General, their motto was Luto and Kuto, now you join hands with them.
Mr. Farooq, Senator Dilawar Abbas is simply saying that Nawaz Sharif was very insulting. Well, okay, you know what? Let me take a short commercial break here, and we'll return to this because I want to give this some time. So we'll take a short commercial break. When we return, we will talk about the fact that a joint opposition didn't happen. Now there is a coalition government. Where is Nawaz Sharif and his men out in the cold? That's an important question. We'll talk about that after a short break. Please stay with us. Welcome back to Witness. Let's return now to Ravla Court, where I was about to ask Mr. Siddiqul Farooq the very crucial question. The very fact, Mr. Farooq, that today Khaja Saad Rafiq says we were earlier termed a friendly opposition, don't turn us into a deadly opposition. We're hearing all these polemics, but what we're not hearing from the PML-N is any kind of strategy. What exactly is the PML-N planning to do? Should we just assume that what Mr. Nawaz Sharif is saying in Kashmir is simply an election tactic, but at the federal level, the PML-N isn't going to rock the boat?
Katrina, we are very serious that this government has not only failed to deliver because of inefficiency, but they are not sincere to the nation and even with this country. Otherwise, with our support, they have so far delivered positively on all fronts. So you just show the clips of Mr. Nawaz Sharif. He is very polite. He has not hit below the belt. He just highlighted the issues. And I think if this government, despite our 3 years cooperation, has failed to deliver, then I think it is the right of the people of Pakistan, and democracy demands us now to side with the people of Pakistan and launch a campaign against this incompetent and corrupt government, so that people in a time, we don't know whether within months or within a year or so, give a new mandate to a party which can deliver. And we are very serious. If Khaja Saad Rafiq uses one word and the other, our leader uses the other, it doesn't mean. Yes. Yes,
you're now saying a few months, so that means that the PML-N has a strategy to topple the government.
It doesn't mean toppling government is something else, and changing government through ballot is something else. We are not going to support any undemocratic and unconstitutional process. Neither we are for it, we are against it. But if elections are held due to public pressure and we remove a government or replace a government through ballot, I think that will be democratic and constitutional.
That is democratic and constitutional indeed. Mr. Rahman, of course, one of the issues that the Prime Minister has addressed himself, he said that this election will be fair and will be transparent and so forth. There's already some criticism coming out now that the efforts have been made to try and buy votes through the Benazir Income Support Program. Allegations have been made. One of the real crucial issues here, of course, is that the PML-N now is on the warpath. Is the People's Party going to take a gentle reconciliatory approach to the PML-N, or are you going to come out swinging too? Because after the President's speech, one wonders about the People's Party's intentions.
Katrina, I think Muslim League N has been isolated, not I think, but it has been proved. They are the only party now and rest of the parties, by and large, they are but still, I mean, they are in some sort of loose coalition, and they are on the same page, I would say. And toppling the government by and demanding demanding a fresh elections, I don't see it happening right now. The country is in a state of war, I would say. Internal security is at risk, and people are have to save their lives, and law and order situation is so bad. How are they demanding? What are they doing about? You yourself pointed, what are the strategies they have been proposing on the floor of the House? I don't see, except few political speeches, we don't see anything serious coming out from them.
Do you remember I think it was a 10-point agenda presented by the PML-N, I think it was around the first week of January, in which they said, here are things you need to do on the economic front. Your government agreed, but those talks collapsed.
It didn't, I mean, it's not really collapsed. They have to really consistently follow that up. Not really that one time they bring out a paper and read it and then they go sleep over that. They're the government in waiting. I mean, they have to really come up with few strategies and debate it on the floor of the House. For so many, a speaker allow them as much time as they want.
Mr. Siddiqui Farooq says that your party is not sincere to the nation.
What is the parameter for saying this? How do you assess that who is sincere and who is not? I don't see Mr. Farooq al-Siddiq as an authority to say that. Even I can say that PML-N is not sincere to the people of Pakistan. If we debate on that, it's the people of Pakistan who has to judge who is sincere and who is not sincere. And then 60% of the population is still in Punjab. When we talk about the governance issues, I think the Punjab issue comes first, about those reckless programs of Sasti Roti, Yellow Cab, and this, they are again going to repeat some sort of cabs and those very adventurous programs. I think we don't see law and order situation better than any other provinces.
Let's ask Mr.
Where are the governance issues? And if they are very competent and they have to prove in the next upcoming government.
I think that's a very fair question.
Yes,
let's ask
then they have to show it in the Punjab. There should be a difference. Punjab is a defaulter. You know, you remember that during the last year it was defaulted 60 or 70
Mr. Siddiqui
billion
Farooq,
rupees.
this is a valid point, that if you say the country is in a bad condition, well, your party rules in the Punjab. Now, is Punjab a glowing example of being different from the rest of the country? Is Punjab safe from economic upheavals and terrorism?
Thank you. Just see the budget which was presented in Punjab Assembly by our government. That was admired and appreciated not only by media but by experts. This shows our priorities. As far as health sector, education sector, housing sector, we are delivering in all the sectors of the economy and society. And when I say that this government is not sincere to the people of Pakistan, I have arguments for that. They have so far added to the problem of load shedding. They are just targeting Punjab with shortage of petroleum and gas load shedding. They are targeting Punjab in other issues. Similarly, they have not been able to implement the 14-point formula, consensus formula given to them by the joint sitting of the parliament in October 2008. And had they implemented that formula, I think the problem of terrorism would so far have been resolved. So when we say that corruption, they have added to corruption. When we say governance, their governance is not only poor, they have given bad governance to this nation. So this shows that they are not sincere to the people of Pakistan or the man in the street or at grassroots level.
Okay, Mr. Siddiqui Farooq, Yasmin Rahman Sahiba is asking, is Punjab free of corruption?
I don't say that Punjab is free of corruption, but you see the level of corruption. You just read the reports of international institutions and even the reports being published by our own media. You just see that the corrupt people are being appointed one after another by this federal government. So if they are sincere, if they want to erode the corruption or minimize the corruption, at least they should have some standard. They should put honest people. They should appoint honest people. But they insist on violating Supreme Court's verdicts. They insist on taking their own decision, a very negative decision. This proves that they don't believe in fair play. But let me say that they always find survival in foul play. When there is fair play, they try to skip.
Okay. Okay, stay with me, Mr. Farooq. Senator, of course, one of the very crucial points over here that we have to talk about is that the PML-N was also in a coalition with the Pakistan People's Party at the very beginning, and that honeymoon period did not last. At this point, how satisfied are you?
Yes.
Because
We
some people
tried
in your
our
party
level
are
best.
already objecting. Mr. Farooq,
We
stay with me,
tried
because I
our
want
level
Senator
best.
Dilaver to address this. Some people
Yes,
in your
let
party
me
are
answer this
already
question.
having problems.
Let me answer this question now.
Okay, Mr.
We
Farooq, let
tried
Senator
our level
Dilaver
best.
answer first, and then I'll bring you on.
Okay, let him ask
Very
the
unfair.
question.
If you are
Yes, let
asking,
Senator Abbas answer this question,
Yeah.
and then I'll let you
please
speak.
let me have my time
Yeah.
and
Okay.
my share of time.
Exactly.
I have to
Okay,
say
okay.
a couple of things. Starting
Okay.
from, it's a very good thing, very democratic what he said, that his leadership would like to bring a change only through the ballot in this country. Very good. Whenever it takes place, whether it can be next year, year and a half, after this government or this parliament completes its 5-year term. If that is the thought, appreciate. And I think every democratic person in this country will appreciate that. Very good. But now, how you can bring this change and ask for the vote? Are you asking, coming onto the street to get the people out in the rallies and the protest against the sitting government?
Is that against democracy?
No, it is not, but
Okay.
what I am going to arrive at. This is one way. And the second way is that you create in the parliament and you increase your votes. You increase your strength.
How do you do that?
You create your allies. You have 91 at the moment. People's Party has 127 or 124.
Right.
You keep adding. People's Party kept on.
Well, that's floor crossing, isn't it?
No, it is not floor crossing.
coalition.
It is
If coalitions, if
Yes.
entire parties move.
And number two thing is that coming into this sort of process of collecting the votes or increasing your strength is judged at the time of the budget.
Right. Okay.
People Party carried through the budget. So that strength of theirs shows that in the parliament they are not going to make that sort of a strength.
Clearly,
Yeah.
that's clear. Yeah.
So vote comes later then, or through the other way.
Yeah.
Okay.
The street politics.
Now
whatever.
I come to one thing more. Unfortunately, what has happened in last 2-3 days, these crossfire between the party leaderships, and I would like to narrate just a verse in Urdu, which is very.
Then you have to translate it too.
Yeah, I will. निगाह बुलंद सुखन दिल नवाज जां पुरसोज यही है रख्ते सफर बीर कारवां के लिए. He says the leader has to be visionary one. His talk, his conversation should be loving and affectionate. निगाह बुलंद सुखन दिल नवाज जां पुरसोज, and he should be able to take on lots of problems of the others on his. If that sort of leadership is created in this country, that is the way to move. And
Do you see any one person in Pakistan for whom that description fits?
that I will leave it to you to judge and analyze.
No, I seriously, no, because this is the question. So many people ask me today, do you think anybody in Pakistan can fit that description today? Any political leader in Pakistan fits that
If not
description?
100%, I think 75% Chaudhry Shujat Hussain fits into that.
You think Chaudhry Shujat 75% fits into that?
Have you ever heard him crossing or not being aggressive talk unless and until you pin him to that level? Now this pinning was going on actually between Mr. People's Party and Mr. Nawaz Sharif.
The question,
and it had
Senator,
started,
you have to answer the question, which was that is your party satisfied in its alliance with the People's
Yeah,
Party?
we are.
You are
Yeah.
satisfied. Despite what Amir
Maqam
Maqam is saying, that's what other people are angry.
But you have heard Mir Maqam saying anything else except for something he has said that he has taken the oath, still he is an oath.
But
and
he's left the ministry,
No,
Maureen Memon
but he
resigned the party.
He wants another ministry. He doesn't want to leave the party.
Change the portfolio.
He's the president. He wants to have a different portfolio. That is where it is resting at the moment.
Okay, which you know is disturbing. Let me return to you, Mr. Farooq, before I go to Yasmin Rahman. The whole situation over here really is that today in the National Assembly, when the budget was being passed, there was a handful of PML-N MNAs on the floor of the House. I can literally name them. I think Anusha Rahman was there, Khaja Saad Rafiq, Chaudhry Nisar was there briefly, Abid Sher Ali. There were less than 10 MNAs. Why were your MNAs absent?
Let me answer 2-3 observations made by my brother. First of all, that will our party or my leadership take the people in the streets? Let me say that putting pressure on the government through holding peaceful demonstration or bringing people into the streets is a democratic process, and Constitution enshrines this right, number one. Secondly, he suggested that we should add to our supporters and bring a change in the parliament, of course, through a no confidence motion. We believe that if we change this government through a no confidence motion, we will not be able to deliver in this situation where there will be so many parties having their own interests, trying to grab one ministry or the other. We will not be able to implement our manifesto. So I think this must not be our option. Thirdly, I think you have asked a question about our presence in the parliament.
Allow me to interrupt, Mr. Farooq.
Yes.
Mr. Farooq, I want to understand one thing. You are basically saying that no conference motion does not suit the Pakistan Muslim League N right now. You don't want to go into coalition with somebody else to use those numbers. Do you believe that in a general election your party would actually win outright? Conventional wisdom says that there will always be hung parliaments at this point.
Let there be hung parliament. We don't know the results. I think people of Pakistan know our performance, the performance of Mr. Nawaz Sharif in early 90s and then from 97 to 99. So he knows his character, his policies from October 99 till today. And we believe that people of Pakistan will overwhelmingly vote for PML-N, and inshallah we will be in majority to form a government. But if there is a hung parliament, who can say? We may form a coalition government, but on our manifesto, in that way we will be in a position to implement our manifesto. And look, if we
don't right now, Mr. Farooq, I'll return to this. Okay, I'm going to take a short commercial break over here. When we return, we're going to talk about this very crucial issue. If the PML-N is actually going to try and remove this government through some process of street protests and public pressure, what kind of impact will that have on the country's security situation? And moreover, there is a strong danger that floods could once again revisit Pakistan and wreak havoc in the coming few weeks. Ramzan is also around the corner. Pakistan's political timetable will be tied to all these events. We'll talk about this after a short break. Please stay with us. Welcome back to Witness. One of the crucial issues that is again confronting us, from which sadly I have heard little from either the government or the opposition on this, is that the United Nations is warning that another 5 million people could be at risk from flooding again this year. As we've discussed a couple of days ago, floods in Pakistan last year have weakened the infrastructure, they have weakened the bridges, the dikes, the embankments, the levees, and rain again this year could put pressure on those structures again. Nothing like what happened last year, God willing, but definitely some problems. Ramzan is also around the corner. Political activity tends to quieten down during that time. Mr. Rahman, is the government preparing in any way for floods again?
No, government is definitely cognizant of this fact that there may be floods. The weather forecast and the predictions are there. And
what preparations are being made?
And definitely, the Prime Minister took this issue on the floor of the House when I remember coming to your program, and after that Prime Minister took that issue on the floor of the House, and the directions were there, obviously in his office, and he just briefed the Parliament about what the directions were before these floods take over the population of Pakistan again. So I think government is quite conscious of the fact, and they are, with the help of the irrigation departments, of course, they are
because
taking
right
a
now, this,
strategy.
again, Marvi Memon crops up in this conversation. She moved a case in the
Yeah,
Supreme
yes,
Court, and you got that report, and I believe 16 people have been suspended from their duties. I read in the newspaper today, SDOs and various low-level
because
people.
you know, if you remember, Katrina, that report said that mismanagement, corruption, lack of maintenance of the bridges, and so the
embankments, the levees,
the people who were found responsible, they have been sacked. So the Department of Irrigation, it's their responsibility, and they did not
So
come
nobody
after
at the top will take responsibility.
I mean, it's the department, and the department has to be efficient. Why not departments?
Who's
Why
responsible
not?
for
Why
the
not
department?
officers and bureaucrats be performing?
They
Why
should.
it has always be coming up to the top level for the political people to be giving all the direction at every time? They have to do what their
Isn't that
duty.
why we have ministers?
No, definitely it's their duty. I don't shy away from this, and ministers are responsible. But why the pressure, blame is not put on the bureaucracy and the officials who are sitting in those positions, and they are doing nothing.
You see, here's
and their
Mr.
accountability, we don't
Mr.
see their
Rahman, this is
accountability
where-
even in the media.
This is where I believe that the minister in charge, or ministers in charge, because it's provincial as well, they should have been the ones doing that investigation, not the Supreme Court through Mari Memon through the Supreme Court. This was the job of the government.
I mean, if Marvi Memon had every right, and every citizen of
course she
Pakistan have a
does.
right to move a petition in any of the courts. So that was her right, and that report came, and government acted on that report. I would say suspended the officials who were to be blamed, who were blamed to be blamed after that investigation, after the committee nominated. So I think government is. I'm sure that the government is. Prime Minister has gave the statement, and he was conscious of the fact about this. And about Sadiqul Farooq, I would say that he said that they don't want to be in the government in the federal government in the present situation, because they know they cannot perform. Then what are they expecting from the government itself, when they know that the terrorism, law and order situation, or all this situation is very bad? And why are they criticizing the government? And secondly, I again want to reiterate that Punjab, the biggest province, and I think with all these revenue collection and it's the leading province of Pakistan. Why don't you set an example by good governance, by performance, by efficiency there, so that other provinces can follow? Even federal government, they have to set up an example, and if they are so efficient, they have to show the way to other provinces, and they should take the lead. Nobody will stop them.
Very good point, Mr. Sadiqul Farooq. PML-N should take the lead, make Punjab a model of governance, and everybody else will follow suit.
Katrina, you know, all flood hit areas have been properly served and taken care of. We have set an example during these floods. Secondly, just now we have presented a very beautiful and caring budget. I think we have set a precedent for the federal government and other provinces to follow us. And there is another very important question about floods. You have just referred to UN report and other things. Our performance during flood has been excellent. And if we are the nation is once again tried with this calamity, God forbid, you will see that under the leadership of Nawaz, Government of Punjab and PML-N will practically deliver according to the expectation of the people. But we pray to Almighty Allah to save us from such trial and calamity.
Okay, Mr. Farooq, a quick question over here. One of the things that we've seen the PML-N leadership do in the past 2 years is Mr. Nawaz Sharif is almost behaving like a boxer who dances out from his corner, throws a few punches in the center of the ring, and then goes back and sits down again. Repeatedly we see this, that the PML-N comes out boxing and then retreats. Why is this happening? Why is there not a consistency in PML-N's policies?
I think boxing is your favorite game. So that's why you have given the example of boxing. No. Actually, we are trying to play the role of an opposition which is responsible, and I think it is for the first time in Pakistan. Just a few minutes before, my brother Dilawar Abbas quoted the couplet from Allama Iqbal, Nigah Buland Sukhan Dil Nawaz Jan Purshuz. Mr. Nawaz Sharif and PML-N risen above their interests. They were not interested in forming government, they were not interested in ministries. They wanted Mr. Zardari and Prime Minister to deliver, and we extended fullest cooperation. That proves that we believed in these values. Now that when they have failed to deliver, so we have chosen the other way, and we have started to putting pressure on this government, which is, I think, termed by you as flexing muscles and I think punching one or the other, and then going back to what is called that, to their own corner. But I think now we will be continuously following the policy of putting pressure, because without putting pressure this government doesn't deliver. And if with our pressure they deliver, that will be okay for the government, and if they don't deliver, then of course with the pressure of the people of Pakistan, they will have to hold elections and we will bring change through ballot.
Okay, Senator, now of course an interesting point over here is that your party is uniquely positioned at this point to bring down the political temperature as well, because right now what we are seeing, earlier it was, as Yasmin Sahiba pointed out earlier, emanates trading barbs on the floor of the House, a few fiery talk shows, a few press conferences here and there, some stronger allegations. I think Rana Sanalla's comments about Babar Awan were a little over the top, but one of the very crucial issues over here right now is that the country really cannot afford another political upheaval. Is your party prepared at this point to pressurize the People's Party to deliver on governance issues?
Yeah, one thing, I think before I come to answer your question, one thing is again a Persian couplet, very small, as when Mr. Siddiqul Farooq says everything is green in Punjab. And there is a couplet is Kasnami Goyad ke doge man turashast. Nobody says that very lassi khatti hai. Everybody says it's very sweet. So I'm saying, I'm referring to all the provinces. Flood, very important. And what was pointed out, I think our government functionaries has to be checked by the political people and the bosses very strongly.
Absolutely.
I think Atta crisis came in our days in the caretaker government, and I was minister.
Yeah.
I was pushed into 5 districts every day, 6 o'clock in the morning. Run, look, find out, have the meetings. I think this is the way we have to. Everything has to be...
That's what the people expect.
Yeah, and everything has to be on war footing as far as the flood preparations are concerned. I am not talking up. All these people must be taken to the task. SDOs, executive engineers, superintending engineers, people responsible.
But we are running out of time.
Yeah,
my question.
Your question.
Will you force the People's Party to deliver?
We have joined the government, and our leadership has, after joining the government, has been very, very, very careful and trying to create and bring in that culture where our managerial skills, and this is what I said in the party. I said if we can create an impact, then it's worth joining. If we cannot deliver or create an impact, whatever will be our share, which should create an impact, I think that will be the worth joining. And that is what we would like to do.
We'd like to see that happen too, because whoever does it, somebody has to. Yes. I'd like to thank my guests, Yasmin Rahman and Senator Retired Syed Dilawar Abbas, for joining me here in the studio. Thank you to Mr. Siddiqul Farooq for joining me from Rawalakot. And ladies and gentlemen, of course, as we wind up this program, the thought comes to mind repeatedly. Pakistan is faced with a multitude of crises. We talk about these crises every day. What we don't see are solutions. We're not seeing those solutions either from the legislators, we're not seeing them from the think tanks, we're not seeing them from the media, we're not seeing them from anywhere. So where are the solutions? Who's going to go after them? Well, realistically, it is the job of the sitting government of the day to find solutions and then deliver. That's not happening right now. That makes fertile ground for the Pakistan Muslim League N to foment and lead street protests. but the uncertainty in the country is also a huge question mark. We will continue to discuss topics like this tomorrow and again next week. But thank you so much for having joined us tonight. Katrina Sen saying Khuda Hafiz from Islamabad.